Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Big East Rewind. I'm Chuck Everson, your host, and as always, my co-host, my point guard, Sonny Spera from Syracuse University. How are you, Sonny?
I'm great, Chuck. I am very excited because in the first 30 seconds when Coach hopped on, he immediately jumped on the Shrine joke. I love the guy. I love him more than I loved him yesterday. How's that?
Yeah, I know. It's funny because back when we were playing, he was always around, and I'm going to ask him about it. He was on the recruiting trail 24/7, and every time you turn around, Coach Greenberg was there. All the guys say that, and all his players that we've had on, Sonny, love this guy. So let me introduce him so we can get rolling, because this is going to be fun today. So this guy's been in the game for a long, long time as an assistant coach with Pittsburgh, amongst others. He was also at Virginia, former head coach of Long Beach State and Virginia Tech. Now he's an ESPN college basketball analyst, the self-proclaimed pizza expert, Sonny. Self-proclaimed pizza expert, and the pride of Plainview, Long Island. My main man, Seth Greenberg. How are you, Coach?
What's up, guys? Doing great. I mean, I'm with two illustrious Hall of Famer types. I mean, an immovable object back in the day at Villanova, and a swift, svelte, dropping dimes guard at Syracuse. It doesn't get any better than this.
Doesn't get any better than this.
And I went to Harvard on the Hackensack. I'm just honored that you guys would have me on.
Well, we're a little bit of a kindred spirit, Coach, because first of all, we share the same birthday, which I thought was kind of cool. And second of all, we're both pizza experts. So I have to know, it's obvious. It's Brooklyn or Long Island pizza, right? It's not anything else.
Yeah. Well, it's a thin crust, burnt on the bottom, crispy in the edges of the okay. Brooklyn, anywhere in New York. I gotta get people to say, like, where's the best pizza in New York? Any freaking street corner. I mean, like, if you can't get a good piece of pizza in New York, then literally you're like, it's a joke. I mean, even the place that says a piece of pizza and a Coke for $3, it's not going to be bad. Right. You can understand. I lived in Blacksburg, Virginia. I mean, I can appreciate a good piece of pizza now.
Yep. Sonny, with his Italian heritage, I think you would agree, right, Sonny? You've been out here.
Oh yeah, my folks are from Staten Island, so we spent many days in the city, and it is the best pie.
There you go. All right. Well, that was easy to figure out. That was real easy. So, hey, Seth, talk to us about. You played on Long Island. First of all, I wasn't entirely sure until we did our due diligence that you were a Long Island guy, and then to find out that you were all Nassau County with your teammate Mark Ivoroni, who won an NBA championship with the Sixers, right? Talk about
and my brother Brad, who's coaching tonight in this will probably be sent out later, but who's coaching in the Puerto Rican Superior League for a championship tonight. He's 0-2. He is coaching Guaynabo. He's playing Arecibo. But, we grew up in born in Queens, grew up in Plainview, Long Island. And, it was a great place to grow up. I mean, when we moved into Plainview, obviously I was very small, but, I mean, there was nothing really past us but a bunch of potato fields. But Long Island basketball has a great, great history. In fact, I talk all the time. People talk about the Big East and St. John's. Back in the day, Long Island produced a lot of great players. Obviously, Long Island Lutheran was terrific. If you went out on, obviously, to Suffolk County, I mean, Jimmy Valvano built the Iona program with Vickers and Ruland and all those great players out on the island. You got the Alphabet Man, Tom Abitamarco back in the day, who's now back at Iona as an assistant coach. You've got a cast of Jimmy Valvano, whose dad used to ref my games. Rocco Valvano used to give me teas all the time. He was brutal. In fact, when Jimmy was recruiting my brother, when he was an assistant at Connecticut, he was supposed to do a home visit with us. My mom threw him out of the house about 1 o'clock in the morning. He just wouldn't stop. But he went to the Nets championship game when they were playing against Denver. John Roche was running in like running one-handers, and Bobby Jones was getting tortured by Dr. J. So Long Island basketball has a rich tradition. I think Long Island basketball, if it can get back to where it was, will help the St. John's and it will help the local areas. And as you know, Daddy Mass made a lot of money on Long Island because Kenny Gableman brought all those campers down to Daddy Mass's camp. That was like a haven for the Rolly Massimino basketball camp.
Yeah, you're right about that.
So you guys got the Long Island connection. Coach, you and I got the point guard connection. So Chuck has been bringing these big guys on the show. Between Ewing and Pinckney and Wennington, he's just trying to flood it. And then he had your boys from Pittsburgh. You know, I mean, it's just like he's just trying to prove that us point guards didn't really have the smarts. Now, you could jump in at any time and stick with me on this one.
I didn't say the point guards didn't have the smarts, Sonny.
Stick with me on this one.
All I'm saying is the big guys don't get a shot at the head coaching jobs. It's all point guards and catchers in baseball. That's all.
Coach, you got a violin near you? You got one right next to you?
I mean, Pat Ewing's a head coach right now at his alma mater. I mean, there are a couple of dudes that have gotten jobs, but here's the deal. You big guys got to understand it. You should fetch it, set good screens, and when available, we will get you the ball.
Yeah.
That's a perfect formula.
I mean, first of all, and here's the other thing. The game has changed. Now, all you big guys, everyone's got to be positionless. Like if you're 7'1", 260, I mean, like you're too positionless. You're so big. I mean, like, if you're a 7-footer, you got to shoot threes. Caleb Holmgren, Clint Holmgren, the kid from Gonzaga, and he's 190 pounds.
Right.
190 pounds. So, I mean, but look, I mean, there is a place. I actually think there's a place right now. We're not doing a good job of getting guys the ball in the block, and guys don't want to play down there. You're better off posting up guards like Luke Carnesecca did with Mark Jackson.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of good footwork from some of those guys either because they don't play down there. The kid that played the other night at Duke, the freshman, had some terrific. Yeah, man. He's had the best feet I've seen in a long time.
He's good.
He's really good.
Something special, right?
Yeah, and he's a hybrid. I mean, I actually at halftime, one of the things I talked about is I think they needed to play him more in that mid post. He's almost like a little kid on Christmas. He can play off the bounce, and he can play facing up, and he can shoot a three, but he's impossible to guard like in that mid post area or in the elbow area where he can rip it and go, and he can be a facilitator from there. But he's a tough match. Paolo Banchero is a unique talent. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I love it. I love this old school jab step. I mean, he jab step, fake, and then did whatever he wanted to. You're right.
Their team is really good. I mean, I'll tell you the coolest thing, and you guys can relate to this. Watched the NBA playoffs last year, and the Garden was hopping. It was, it was kind of almost invigorating with everything that's gone on in the world. You think about the things you take for granted, and then when it's taken away from you, you appreciate it that much more. And then, so watching the start of the season, the first Knick game against the Celtics, double overtime. I mean, the Garden was electric, but I didn't experience it. Tuesday night, you could feel the season. Like as a college basketball guy, walking on the court, taking a seat down at our set, looking around, watching these games and the basically the passion, the energy that was created from people in the crowd, listening to the Kentucky fans going, "Go Big Blue," and the Duke fans going, "Let's go Duke," and just everything that surrounded the game. It was almost like a breath of fresh air. Like, wait a second here. I know we're not to the end yet, but at least we're making progress. It was probably as normal of a basketball experience I've had in 18 months.
Wow. Yeah.
Coach, since you mentioned your brother, I want to go back because we did a little research and we're checking on something. I want to hear about the Greenberg Gardens and the duels.
My brother, the duels. I didn't win very many of those, but when I did, then he just threw me into the fence. My brother was a great player. I mean, he got recruited. He visited Syracuse. In fact, Roy Danforth and Jimmy came into the house for a home visit. This is before the Big East. Jimmy pulled out the schedule, and they just basically said, "All right, we're going to play Colgate. That's a win. New Hampshire, that's a win. We're 17-5, and West in the NIT. And I mean, Coach Boeheim has become a dear friend. My daughter's a Syracuse Law School graduate, but growing up in Plainview, my dad played for LIU, the great Claire B. Who Coach B used to actually come visit us every couple of years, which was an amazing experience for all of us. And that kind of was one of the things that got me into coaching, is just seeing the impact he had on my dad. Because those were the great days of New York City, playing in the Garden, LIU, NYU, even CCM. I mean, it was, way back in the day. But so in the starter house, we had a little, my dad put in a dugout and put a little slab of asphalt. had a real basket all the way in the ground, not one of those roll around things. On one side was the spinner's house. They had a fence. All right. But so if you drove left, you could actually bounce off the fence and get a little momentum.
Get some height.
All right. And kind of get to the rim. You know, the court wasn't that wide. If you went right and you got bumped, you were right into the side of the wall of the house, which was cement and just got the crap beat out of your arm. I mean, blood everywhere and everything. So Brad and I mean, we, as a team, I think we only lost once in the history of our lives in a 2-on-2 game. We had inside handcuffs, middle ball screens, throw it down. I mean, he made every shot. But when we would play, and we'd be had a light, which was above the window of my parents' bedroom, which my mom, when she was trying to get us in, she'd open up the window. Then of course we had to throw the ball up there, and she had to get a shot. And she was almost like Garf. She had to make a shot before she would close the window and leave us. But so, like, if I was ever fairly close, the games were always physical, to say the least. And we were out there. We'd shovel the snow, and we were right back out there. But if I was ever any close, and I was more of kind of a drive it, Brad just made every shot. I mean, I was into the wall. There was no doubt about it. I mean, my shoulder probably is maimed for life. For every right hand drive I made when I was leading, where I thought I might win, there was no freaking way I was getting a shot up.
Are you guys still competitive like that to this day, Seth?
No, we're really actually I'm fiercely competitive, not with each other.
Yeah.
But I get my competition. Obviously in coaching, I was fiercely competitive, almost maybe competitive to nauseum. But I mean, that's how I wanted my teams to play. And I used to say, like, head coach can never have a bad practice. And why should I expect my guys to be committed and play with passion and play with energy and be, if I'm not that every day? I mean, like the first day you give into that, you give in. Like the only sign I had in my practice facility at Virginia Tech was the hardest playing, toughest team finds a way to win. The day you're not that team is the day you give in. But the only time I'm competitive in golf. I like, that's kind of my, my competitive release. It's, when you're on TV, as opposed to preparing your team for play, like even winning and losing, you miss, the competition is what I really miss.
Yeah. So,
but in golf, you can get that and talk a little smack and, not that I'm all that good, but I'm good enough to, to compete. And that's where I get my competition. But no, between us now, we're probably each other's greatest fans. I'm so proud of what he's been able to do. He won the FIBA championship in Europe this year, the third basically big cup with a mid-range team in Israel. He won the Israeli championship a couple of years back, beat Maccabi Tel Aviv, which no one beats. Maccabi Tel Aviv. He's coached the Kosovo national team. He's obviously, he worked in the NBA. And now he took over a team in the middle of the summer, the Guanabo Mets, owned by a couple of guys from Long Island, actually. And they were like 4-7. He's coached them into the championship round, the last championship round. And they're down 0-2, but, they have a shot.
That's great. Coach, I got to ask you, because when you got recruited for college, your college coach was my high school coach's mentor. We would go to basketball camp in summertime at Fairleigh because of Coach LaBelle. So talk a little bit about how that occurred for you.
Coach LaBelle, I always wanted to coach. And, it kind of came down to, it sounds bizarre, it came down to Penn State and Fairleigh Dickinson, who I affectionately call Harvard on the Hackensack. And Coach Lowe was, look, you think about the great defensive minds in the history of the game, obviously Coach Iba, Coach LaBabo are right side by side. I mean, he was UB Brown's high school coach. Mm-hmm. He was assistant coach at St. John's after that, a mentor to Coach Carnesecca. Coach Lowe was, to me, for what I wanted to do, it was a perfect, not too far away from home, 2 hours away from home. My parents were getting divorced at the time. It was good for that. And then, to play for him and learn from him was really, really important. Although my favorite Coach Lowe story, and I got so many of them, the podcast isn't long enough, but my first practice, I come walking in, and I love the game. I get lost in the game. I get lost in everything about the game here. I don't care. Fairleigh Dickinson, we were everyone's guarantee game. I mean, so there's 15 chairs right across the free throw line. And the assistant coach would come, and Dick Wiseman comes, tells us to sit down. I'm ready to go, man. I mean, sit down. Let's go. Let's get some shots up. So we sit down and we wait. Finally, Coach Lababa comes walking down, and Coach Lowe, he had like one strand of hair. He wrapped it around his head about 4,000 times. He'd scratch his head. The whole thing would go up and down. He had real skinny legs. He never wore shorts, but he'd wear these maroon pants to practice every day. And when he walked, it looked like he had no legs because, they were like loose. And he'd always be chewing on a cigar. So he walks in front of us. He's walking back and forth, must have walked back and forth 5-10 times. And like, we're sitting there going, oh, and I had these white shorts on. I mean, it was like the practice short. And he goes, hey, I'm your coach, Al Lowe. I want you to like me, not to love me, because loving leads to screwing, and no one screws with Al Lababo. And he didn't say screwing. And that was my first practice as a college player. And that was it. And he was a different guy, but when I got into coaching, when I became a head coach, we stayed in touch until obviously right till the end when he passed. And he would, if we didn't play good defensively, like I'm my first year at Long Beach State or with South Florida, or even in my good Virginia Tech teams, like he'd call and go, "You gonna guard anyone?" I mean, he would call and like rip me, like Coach, I'm trying to get him to guard now, I promise you. But he was a great teacher, really good teacher, and impacted so many high school coaches throughout the state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
So
one thing Sonny. I got to say though, no beeps there, Coach. You did good, man.
Yeah, he was a good man. He was a good man.
Go ahead, Chuck.
So how did you wind up then in the coaching at Pitt and
5-star
the other place?
It's the only thing I ever wanted to do. I went to 5-star. Brad going into his senior year. Brad's junior year, they played against Beaver Smith, Southside High School, in the Nassau County Championships. And Brad had about 40 in the game. I mean, he was like a joke. He was shooting from like what's now logo range, and it was a great game. Garf was at the game. It was Dave Lucy, Beaver, Sisti, Jerry Sisti, the big, he was their power forward. Anyway, Brad had this monster game. I was in 9th grade, but I was brought up for the varsity for that game. And, I was actually Dave Lucy in practice. So I was just firing stuff. It was great. And Brad, we lose the game, but Brad has this monster game. And here's this bespectacled guy with a big nose, coming over and to see us. And, he goes, I'm Howard Garfinkel. I'm going to make you a star. Just talking to my brother, you got to come to camp. Well, Brad came to camp. I came to camp. And then, that's where it really all started. I mean, Howie Garfinkel back in that day built a bridge for so many of us to cross, whether it was as players or with his kid to get into coaching, whether it was Rick Pitino, John Calipari, myself, Ronnie Rothstein, Brendan Sir, Mike Fratello, UB Brown. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And literally that first year, sitting there listening to UB Brown, sitting on the outdoor courts at 5-star, I'm sitting there and I'm mesmerized. And I literally, from that day forward, I said, I want to do that. And that was what kind of got me wanting to seeing Coach B come visit my dad. And I didn't know it was going to end up coaching the ACC. I didn't coach for money. I didn't coach to get in the ACC. I just wanted to coach. Yeah. I had no idea. And my senior year of college, I graduated. Before I graduated, Tom Penders got the Fordham job, and he asked me to be like a graduate assistant. And then 2 weeks later, Buddy Mahar got the Columbia job that Tom left. And he and Tom were in this little competition, and I get a call, and he goes, I want you to be my assistant coach and coach the JV team. I was 21 years old. And it was through 5-star. And then that led to Pitt, that led to Virginia, that led to Miami, and, before obviously the Big East and my coaching career.
It's funny you mentioned Coach Brown as being a big influence, because we had a show all about 5-star, and we had Mike Fratello on with us,
Best.
and Pete Gillen and Mitch Ponaguro.
Oh,
And those guys all talked about Garf. And of course, Garf got into the Hall of Fame this year.
yes.
It's great, well deserved. You know, the impact that guy's had on the game of basketball is incredible, right, Coach? I mean, he's got Hall of Fame coaches, Hall of Fame players. He's all these guys.
I coached Pat Ewing at 5-star.
Did you?
Yeah, I was there. I was there at 5-star in Pittsburgh when Jordan. Great story about Michael Jordan is I'm at 5-star. Dave Odom comes up to me. I'm assistant at Miami at the time. He goes, Berg, there's a guy coming to camp. No one knows who he is. He's unbelievable. I'm going, Dave. I mean, like I was here. I was a player at 5-star when Moses Malone was there.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, I've seen them all, Michael Corrin, Isaiah Thomas, Mark Aguirre. I'd see, every great player that, John Sally was discovered at 5-star. I mean, Pickney, you name them all. And I go, how good can he be? So he goes, be on court 3 for tryouts. I couldn't be at court 3 because I was signed to another court. Anyway, the best player in the country that year was a guy named Joe Ward, best high school player. He was supposed to, really, really good. Ended up going to Georgia. First game is Joe Ward against Jordan. Jordan and 5-star, the best players played the second and fourth quarter. The secondary players played the first and third quarter. And then there was a horse that could play at least 3 quarters. I think Jordan had like 46. Joe Ward never recovered. I mean, but that was 5-star. I mean, that was where you would go to, get discovered. For us that wanted to coach, that was the best. That was being at a coaching clinic every day. To be able to teach a station and get critique, to be able to listen to the great speakers, to be able to ask questions, in Honesdale in the beginning of the summer, the end of summer, to be able to sit in the back of a place called the Fireside where everyone went down to eat because the food was absolutely freaking horrific. You could listen to these, like all of the young guys were like way behind. You'd see me and Calipari and my brother and, Pete Gillen, and they'd be listening to all these, Chuck Daly and UB Brown and all these great coaches. And you were like a fly on the wall, just getting a lesson every single night. And it's Garf and Willie Klein. And, I say it all the time, the greatest bridge that's ever been built, in my life. I've had 2 people besides my parents impact my life. And that's been obviously the opportunity to be part of the 5-star family. And then Terry Holland hiring me after I left Pitt. Who, after that point, I never made a major decision in my life without consulting Coach Holland, including asking my wife to marry me. And every time I changed jobs, when I went from Miami to Long Beach to become the associate head coach, when I decided to leave Long Beach to go to South Florida, when I was going for the Virginia Tech job, even to the point where Coach Holland, when we had Duke beat my second time there at Duke, we beat him the third time at Duke, but we go up 1 with 1.6 seconds, and they put a couple of seconds on the clock, and they threw it a 3-pointer at the buzzer to beat us. Well, there's a voicemail on my phone. Coach Holland's watching the game. He thinks we have the game won. So he calls my phone to leave a message going, Berg, it's unbelievable. Second trip to Cameron. What a win. Oh, no. Because the ball, Dockery just made the shot to beat us. But Coach Holland was an amazing guy. But 5-star changed my life. There's no doubt about it. And, like you talk about Mitch, and I know you were playing when Mitch was on the staff, right?
Yeah, Mitch recruited me. Mitch was my guy.
Rolly, you can't believe it, Chuck. He can rebound. Put him in Rolly. Rolly's unbelievable. Use your hands as antennae. Rolly.
That's pretty good. I have to say, that's pretty good.
It's good. So you're right now. You're definitely our top 2 impressionist by far.
You're in our top 2 for sure.
You're above Billis. So when you work with Billis again, tell him that we give you.
Yeah, you beat out Billis.
Billis states his opinion like it's a fact. It's unbelievable. It's the only guy that he thinks like anything that anyone says. Don't be so silly. I'm not being silly. That's my opinion, Jay. We might have a different opinion because we look at things through a different prism. But Jay's been great. My daughter works actually for his law firm in Charlotte.
Oh, really? Great. That's great.
So let's talk about your trip and your journey. So you were at Columbia. Did you go from Columbia to Pitt? How did you get to Pitt?
Yeah, Roy Chipman got the Pitt job. I was in my second year at Columbia. I worked at Columbia with the great Kenny Williamson, who ended up with a really amazing NBA career, scouting and in personnel. But the Eggman who started at Riverside Church.
Riverside Church.
Yeah, he oversaw the program for Ernie Larch at Riverside Church, and who was just an amazing guy. Love him to death. But when Roy Chipman got the job, he reached out to Garth and said, I need a young assistant and who can go and connect with kids and coach, because at that time we were in the Atlantic 10, and literally I interviewed over the phone and for about 30 minutes, and the next thing I know, I was in Pittsburgh. And fortunately, a relationship I had through 5-Star. I was working at Columbia, but I did a lot of the individual instruction at 5-Star. And one of the guys that took a liking to me was a guy named Clyde Vaughn, who was one of the best high school players in the country. I was not recruiting Clyde for Columbia, but he was so passionate, loved the game, and played so hard. Like every night we'd work on handles, we'd work on coming off screens. I mean, we just developed this unbelievable relationship. And then when I got the Pitt job, I started thinking, who can we try to recruit? We got the job late. And I called up Lenny Mecca, his high school coach, just to, kind of see what was going on. And Lenny Mecca said to me, he said, we were just talking about you. Clyde wants to come play for you. He visited Pitt and it was over.
Yeah.
He was going to go to the
He talks about it. He thinks, very fondly of you and everything you've done. And he felt the connection to you. It's plain and simple.
He's like my son. My daughters love him. My wife loves him. Clyde is, and that's how I hired him as an assistant coach at Long Beach State after he finished his playing career and hurt his back. And
Mamalicious.
Yep, Mamalicious. That's my guy. He's the best. He's the best. The best human being I've ever been around.
It's funny, Coach, because you sometimes as a player you get these guys that you just connect with, and it might not necessarily be the head coach. At Syracuse, Bernie Fine was that guy for a lot of the players.
Bernie
at Pittsburgh and some of the schools you were at, you were that guy. So talk about how important it is to have that relationship. So now, if things aren't going well for a particular player, they know that they can talk to you about things without necessarily, obviously you have to do your job, but you can go back and talk to the head coach, but they feel a lot more comfortable talking to you about things than the head coach at times, right?
Yeah. You understand, when I was at Pitt, I was 23 years old.
Yeah. So you were
right around the same age. And I was the guy that was in the gym doing all the individual workouts. So I was sweating with him. At 23, I would armbar him and guard him. I was shagging balls for him. We were in there all hours a day. But, I always told him, I said, to me, I called it straight talk. I said, I'm always going to be straight with you. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth and what you need to hear. Almost like, my parents did. It's part of parenting. I'm going to tell you the truth because the truth is what can help you in a big picture. And I never lowered my standard in terms of demanding of my guys. But I also was empathetic because I was a player that maybe I had some tough times. I played for a really hard coach that was really tough on me.
Yeah.
That I could separate that from, hey, come on over to the apartment. I'll bring in a couple pizzas. We'll watch TV, or, hey, let's go in the gym. And we're not shooting today. Let's just sit here and hang out, or meet me at, place right down in Oakland. There was two little hole in the wall burger places. I said, meet me at, so-and-so, and, whether it's the Dirty O or whatever it was, or Charlie and Barney's. And I said, let's grab a burger and sit and just talk. And, relationship I had with the guys, to me, that's why I got into coaching, to impact someone's life, to help someone get somewhere they couldn't get themselves, to have a positive influence on someone. And my former guys, they want me to get back in coaching. I'm 65 now. I've been at it for 10 years there. I don't know, they all want a job or whatever. I got a big weekend this week and I can't be there. My daughter's going to represent our family. Jamon Gordon, who played for me at Virginia Tech, going into the Virginia Tech Hall of Fame. I was literally just sent him, I talked to him the other day and I just sent him this long text message. I started crying while I'm typing the damn thing because I'm so proud of him, happy, because he's become a Hall of Fame father, grandson, son, community member. That's what you get into it. But yeah, just, you guys know, you got to love your players. And, I didn't, I say it again, I had no idea. Every job I ever had, including my first contract at Virginia Tech, I never asked how much money I was going to make. I had no idea what Columbia was paying me. I had no idea what South Florida was going to pay me. I had no idea what Long Beach. I never had an agent. I never had a coaching agent. like it was stupidity. It's stupidity. It cost me a little bit. It cost me in the end, but that wasn't what I was about. What I was about is I loved being in the gym. I loved helping. I loved the game. I loved the relationships. I know you had Andre on and Keith on. I mean, I still remember going to Andre's house and his mom and his brother actually came play for a little bit at Long Beach, and Andre being so worried that he wanted to walk me back down to the car from the home visit, and that relationship never changed. It never changed. I mean, it's just to me, that's what it's all about. I mean, if we did a big Zoom call when everything broke out last year with the pandemic and everything was going on in the world. We had the first player ever recruited at Columbia, Darren Burnett, to the last player ever recruited at Virginia Tech. We had about 75 guys on it, and it was a really cool thing. And that to me was that's what it's all about. I mean, it doesn't end when guys stop playing. That's when your relationship changes with your players, but it doesn't end.
Right. The ball, listen, the ball stops for everybody, coach. Right. And then, the basketball part of the relationship is about that much, really. And then it's everything else, and that's the way it was with Coach Mass, as you know. You've been around.
It's the best. And that's the way it is with Jay. That's the way it is with Jay. Jay's, Clooney's unbelievable.
Clooney. Yeah, he is. And he's so good to all of us, as you know, it's being amazing. Around a lot, So we talked a little bit about 5-star. Okay. And back then when you were coaching at Pitt, tell us some stories about the recruiting trail, because, Andre said this, Clyde said this as well. Every time you turned around, you were there. I mean, I guess it was because of your age. You were hot to trot. You were all over the place. I mean, I'd play in Smithtown and see you in the gym and then turn around and somebody's calling me about, Coach Greenberg was here to see me play, or Ron Stewart said you were over here.
Yeah, I gave a run at Ron Stewart.
Yeah.
I just, in my little yellow Toyota Corolla. I mean, it was, I don't know. I mean, to me, it was never a job. I mean, it was a passion. It was something I loved. I loved getting to see the players, getting to know their families, getting to, I was places, guys didn't dream about going to Pitt back then. You had to develop real relationships. I mean, I developed a good relationship with Andre's high school coach. I think, that helped me. And being where I could tell the guys, talk to them straight. I mean, I think that's the big thing. If just be, look, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to stand beside you. I'm going to help you get where you want to go, but I'm also going to hold you accountable. And, I mean, I think that was, I think too many times in recruiting, I liked recruiting, but too many times recruiting, guys spend all their time trying to think of what guys wanted to hear. And a lot of times I didn't even talk about basketball. I talk about, how I could help their games. I was so, I guess, confident because of the 5-star background, I could get in the gym and develop someone. But I mean, to me I got to know everyone in their family. I got to earn the trust of, because I was around, back then. You got to remember now, back then there wasn't a recruiting calendar. Right. So I was on the road and I had no family. So I was on the road from the first week of the first 5-star in Honesdale to the end, which was Labor Day, which was the last week of 5-star. And I would just drive. If I went to New York, I might see a game, citywide game. Then I might drive to see, a game at Hickey Field. I might go out to Suffolk County. And then I might drive into Baltimore. I mean, to see the Dozier twins or someone. I mean,
right.
It didn't impact me. Although I did learn a lot of things. Like my 2 greatest recruiting lessons were my first recruiting trip. I'm at Columbia and I'm going to go to recruit California, and I got my plane ticket. Unfortunately, I didn't have a credit card, nor did I have enough money to pay for my rent-a-cars or my hotels. So I'm literally getting letters and carrying letters with me, which is amazing. They accepted them at all these hole-in-the-wall hotels that the Columbia business office was going to pay the bill, which was, it's pretty crazy. Or like I'm at Gaucho Gym one time with PJ Carlissimo when he's at Wagner as the head coach, and PJ decides that we're practice is over, and it was the day of the not the day of the McDonald's game, and it was in Philly. And PJ turns to me, goes, we should go to the McDonald's game. It's in Philly. Let's drive down there. I said, you want to drive? He says, no, I'll drive. So we get in PJ's car. I leave my car on right on 125th, right by where I lived. I lived on 125th Riverside. We drive into Philly, and he thought I had money. He's a head coach. I thought I had like $15 in my pocket. He had less. We didn't even have enough money for the tolls. We don't get into the game unless we see Mitch Bonaguro, who lent us $40 to get a ticket and gave us enough money to get back to pay the tolls coming back on the New Jersey Turnpike. So, I mean, but the recruiting to me was everything's about relationships. And,
Coach B talked a little bit about PJ on the golf course. Said you're never going to collect the money from him.
No. Jim. I mean, like Jim would torture PJ. I mean, he would torture him, and and PJ would just say crazy stuff. But Jim would just absolutely. I mean, those two guys back in I only went to one Big East meeting. When we went from the left and went into the Big East the 1 year that I was there. We were in the Big East before we went to the ACC. I went to one Big East meeting, and it was the crazy. Like it was back in those days. Like guys would compete like hell and get after, but away from it, the relationships, especially league meetings, were hilarious. Like the funniest thing that ever happened at a league meeting. My one league meeting, Jay Wright, who's the nicest human being in the world. We know that Jim Calhoun and Gino do not get along. They don't get along. All right, so a big part of in Ponte Vedra was we'd go play Sawgrass. Well, the foursome was me, Jay, Gino, and Jim, and somehow Gino got in a foursome. Well, I was supposed to be driving with Gino, and Jim was supposed to be driving with Jay. We get there first. I drive over to the course with Jay, and Jay, the George Clooney, whoever doesn't realize. He goes, we got to do this. He switches the cards. He puts Gino with Calhoun for 4 hours in the same car. And I'm driving with Jay. And the whole round, all Jay's going is, you imagine the conversation in that car right now. Those guys, they are pissed. They don't want to even see each other yet. Be stuck in the same golf cart together for 4 hours. But, I mean, the Big East was it was great because it was fiercely competitive. It was good relationships with the coaches. The post-game meal, remember, were you guys playing in the league when the post-game meal was supposed to be the two teams together? Or were you guys got out when the league first started? Dave Gavitt wanted to have after every game, the two teams would have a meal together, post-game meal together, and then the visiting team would leave. But after there was like a fight in the first 4 games of the year, that kind of went out the window.
We had a hospitality room in the Dome. And I will tell you this, Coach, because when Pitt joined the Big East, there was a huge sigh of relief. I think the air in the Dome almost deflated because we were so happy because we were being talked about of a football conference with Pitt, Penn State, Syracuse. And when Pittsburgh came into the Big East, it was like that talk is over now. So and I remember walking into the hospitality room, and a guy, Leo Eisner, came in and made that announcement. It was one of my happiest days as a collegian at Syracuse. I could tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, Pitt coming into the league, it's funny. I mean, all the time, I never had Jim, when I was assistant coach, you guys came in with Leo and we actually won a game. We had our first year in the Big East, we had a stretch where we beat Georgetown, Syracuse with Routins and St. John's with Mullen in 3 games, which was an amazing thing. But
I was on the floor in that loss. I remember that game.
Yeah. But hey, one of the great things about going to Syracuse, Harry Tesvani, right at the end of your bench.
That's right. Harry, my man, Harry.
Harry was the best. Harry was the best. But Boeheim, and when we went into the Big East, when I was at Virginia Tech, do you know that he never, in the tenure in the Big East, he never had a Syracuse team visit Virginia Tech for a game?
Really?
How's that one for you? And then when we went to the ACC, obviously that has changed, but we were always at Syracuse. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, dinosaur barbecue is not that good that you have to go there every year. It's well overrated,
especially in the wintertime. It's pretty good in the summer.
Yeah, but in the winter, it was stay at the Sheraton and walk over to the Dome. Not a lot of fun.
Right? Yeah.
So So now you make your way through, now you become a head coach, Long Beach State, you had a pretty good run there for a little bit, and then Virginia Tech. How did that, I mean, talk about the transition from being an assistant to being a head coach. Do you still maintain the relationships the way you did as an assistant coach, or is it a little different now because you're the boss at this point?
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but it's something I pride myself on and spending time with the guys. I mean, with Long Beach State, I was the associate head coach, became the head coach. That first year was hard. It was hard because you had to say no. After that, I mean, I had really good players. I had Lucius Harris and Brian Russell and James Cotton. I mean, I had really good players at Long Beach State, and we had something going really well. I mean, we had it going. Probably was a mistake. My wife, who's a UCLA grad, she always thinks if we stayed at Long Beach. I turned down USC one year. She said, "You know what? We're going to have another good year. We might end up at UCLA," which obviously would have been her dream thing. But yeah, it changed a little bit. No meant no. In the end, it wasn't another guy that maybe was giving someone bad information in terms of playing time or a role or whatever. I worked really, really hard at it. I think like any other head coach, though, I think that some guys understood it, some guys didn't. Some guys liked you, some guys were angry, not angry, but disappointed. But I really pride myself on taking basketball. Like I always say, let's take basketball out of the equation. All right. Am I doing the right things? Am I going to hold you accountable to go to school every day? Am I going to make sure that you understood what being a good young person is, and decision-making, and gaining an education, and learning right from wrong. And I was really big on that. Like one of the biggest things, and because you played in a similar program, like you want to help your guys become good husbands and good fathers,
right? And
be successful in life. And, those things never change. Like my wife and I, we used to always have the guys over the house. And like, a big thing was a lot of my guys that played for us came from single parent families. Mm-hmm. And I wanted them to see how you treat your daughter, how you treat your wife. We very rarely talk basketball. We would sit down and have dinner at our dinner table, or we would go downstairs and watch a movie, or, and I was really big on including my girls in everything we did. So, but yeah, your relationship changes to an extent. Like I always joke with, some of our guys that, it's like anything else. Like you guys were players. So, that like I had this backcourt, Jamon Gordon, Zabe Nardell. They were two great players at Virginia Tech. They were terrific. All right. They helped us win at Duke, win at Carolina, go to the NCAA tournament, win a game, beat two number one teams. I mean, they were great. But like when you would sit with them after their senior year, Jamon would come and say, "Hey, Coach, I know Zabe was your favorite. You always yelling at me, but Zabe, Zabe could do no wrong." And then you'd sit down with Zabe and you go, "Zabe, I know you love Jamon because Jamon was the best defensive player in the ACC. And you love defense, and I played defense too, but I didn't play defense like Jamon. So you always get on me about my defense, and Jamon, he could do no wrong." And so then I brought him. I had them both over the house like their senior year, and I said, "You two guys are idiots." I said, "Tell me what you said about me and Jamon," and we just laughed. I mean, it was great. But yeah, I mean, I think the role. Yeah, I mean, your role changes. There's no doubt about it. But your love doesn't change, and your concern. And look, I'm paid to win games, and then I have a responsibility to help my players get somewhere they couldn't get themselves, achieve academically, prepare themselves to be employable, prepare themselves to have a chance to have a better life. And I took those things seriously. And like I tell people all the time, the most upset I've ever gotten at a player had nothing to do with basketball. It had to do with either they made a bad decision or they were irresponsible in something that it's easy to be responsible. Get to class on time, make it to your tutor, talk to someone, people in the cafeteria with respect, look someone in the eye. When we have our tip-off banquet, meet as many people as you can, because I think that's the biggest thing we've got. Everyone talks about the NIL. The NIL, like Jay has the right idea. NIL should be an opportunity for players to meet people that can become mentors to help them the rest of their lives. It should teach them about entrepreneurship. It should teach them about the networking you need so that you have an army of people behind you and beside you that can help you grow. And so, yeah, I mean, it changes, but, I work really, really hard at staying in touch with my guys the best I can. And vice versa. Like, I mean, I like you had Andre and Keith, like both of those guys were on the thing. And, like Andre out of the blue will, check in every once in a while. Keith, I go back and forth with Keith. He was living in North Carolina, so he'd come to some of our games. And, all those guys. Clyde if there's a video in the back of Mamalicious. Did you guys do Clyde? Did you do something with Clyde?
Yeah, we had Clyde on.
The video behind Mamalicious, there's a dog, which is Jake, and a husband and a wife waiting in line. That's me and Karen. Yeah. That's so, I mean, Clyde legitimately is, if you asked my girls, they would say Clyde is their oldest brother. They love Clyde Vaughn, as do I.
So, Coach, you just described the entrepreneurial. So you just described Charles Smith in almost a nutshell, what he did in the pros. But I got to ask you a question, because I saw something. Not everybody's going to see this on the video. A lot of them will listen to it on the podcast, and I'm sure they heard it in your voice when you mentioned Coach Terry Holland. Mm-hmm. There's something special there. So just talk a little bit about your relationship and what he has done for you and what he means to you.
He means everything. He saved my career. I mean, when I got let go at Pitt, and I don't want to get into that, but when I got let go in Pitt, Dave Odom and Terry Holland reached out to me and offered me an opportunity to be a graduate assistant. So I went from a full-time assistant at Pitt. I thought I did a really good job doing things the right way. Mm-hmm. to
and you did
being the last guy on the totem pole. And he included me in absolutely everything they did. And when it first came out, in fact, the athletic director at that time was like a little wary of it. And Terry just stood up and said, Seth Greenberg's my guy. And I did everything with him. When I was there, we'd go running every single day. I'd sit on every meeting. He had me over the house. I mean, I joke around. Gino RM was the women's assistant. I was like, the fourth men's assistant with Jeff Jones and Jim Larinaga, Dave Odom. It was an amazing staff. We'd play cards, and I say this day, Coach Holland would make sure at the end of the day that I would win, so that I'd have some money to live on. But he was the most influential person in my life from that point forward. And I literally, I love him and love Ann. I literally did not make one decision in my life. I mean, I was on the phone with him at 3:00 in the morning when I was leaving Miami to go to decide whether I was going to take the Long Beach State job. I was really confused. And 3:00 in the morning, we talked for an hour, and he talked me through the whole thing. When I was dating my wife in Miami, Dave Odom and Coach Holland were vacationing the Keys. He called me up. He goes, Berg, we're here in Ocean Reef. Someone gave us a house to stay in. Come on down for the weekend. So I said, can I bring someone? He goes, yeah. So I bring Karen down. This is we were dating for, I don't know, probably a month and a half, 2 months, and we went for a run. And Dave and I did, and Terry did stuff, and Karen, who had no idea of this crazy coaching business, ended up with Lynn Odom and Ann Holland and her driving around Ocean Reef, which is an amazing place. And they're like going, you sure you want to get into this coaching thing? This is not all that it's cracked up to be. The wives are saying that. And at the end of the visit, we're sitting at dinner at a restaurant in the Keys, and right in front of everyone, Terry and Ann stop and say, Berg, because that's what they called me, Berg. I don't want to embarrass you, Karen. She's the one. True story. Wow. And I'm a big believer. And when I talk to businesses, everyone needs a mentor. And I could not have had a better mentor than Coach Holland.
Well, I think your point, Coach, is so true that when you hit some of your challenges, when that person will stick their, will just stick by you and just say, I believe in you, it just never goes away. So
yeah, it never goes. And to his credit, and again, to his credit, before he passed, I got a call from Roy Chipman apologizing for putting me in a position that I had to, he had to make, I had to make a choice, and, I made my own choice. And, again, it was not easy, but, it was, so like I said, life's too short. I try to really eliminate all negativity from my life these days. But and I have some of my closest friends still. Dave Marangoni was a dear friend who actually was officiated my oldest daughter's wedding just this summer. I mean, I've got some great relationships. That's the great thing about coaching. You travel the world. I mean, think about the places we've been. We've taken our children, and the relationships that you have are most times there's a difference between a booster and a friend. But when you have guys that are real friends, those relationships are rich and real.
Coach, man, you love the game. You can hear it comes out of your pores, and you love your players. And we've heard it from them, and we hear it from you. It's real. It's authentic. It's really refreshing. It's great to see.
Yeah, really good. I mean, that's a throwback to what I was used to based on who I played for and everything.
Sure.
Too. I mean,
he was the best.
That's the greatest. So, hey, so talk about a little bit, Coach. Now, I love listening to you on ESPN because I like getting a coach's perspective on things, and you're authentic. You're not afraid to tell it like it is. It's not always popular, but you do a good job of defending your position on whatever it is you're talking about. Talk a little bit about, how, doing that, preparing for games now versus preparing as a coach, and tell us some stories about some of the guys you've been working with at ESPN.
Yeah, I mean, I approach it the same way I did when I was coaching. Look, I'm not going to, I am so fortunate. I don't take for granted anything that ESPN has offered me. I mean, in terms of the opportunity, I mean, I am so lucky and so blessed. And I mean, you think about it, I get let go at Tech, totally a shock. I had no idea. Was about to have Montrezl Harrell and Dorian Finney-Smith and Jarrell Eddy and Eric Green, 4 guys who played in the NBA, and really tough on my family. Obviously, you think about it. I mean, I had 2 daughters that have graduated from Virginia Tech, but ESPN and John Wildhack, who Syracuse athletic director, who
our guy now,
saw something in me. I came and worked that NCAA tournament for ESPN for about 7 or 8 days. At the end of it, he said, "You always have a place here." I thought that sounded nice, but I didn't know it was real. But when I let go, he stood by what he said and gave me this incredible opportunity. And then Lee Fitting and Mark Gross put me on game day, and obviously that was even a greater experience. But my preparation is no different. It sounds silly. I spent all day today on my iPad watching Synergy and breaking down games and looking at, like today, I did 4 teams. I looked at Gonzaga, I looked at Texas, I looked at, UCLA. I mean, those teams are going to be playing this week, and I'm in the studio tomorrow night and I'm about to do Villanova because, Villanova and Gonzaga are, I'm UCLA's tomorrow night, and I'm in the studio for that. But the preparation's the same. My relationships with the coaches really helps me because where everyone's going through an SID, I'm just picking up Jay and calling him, even though obviously Mike's the greatest guy in the world, or, Mick Cronin, I'm texting back and forth with him, or Mark Few. So, I mean, because of what I did for 33 years, I coached against these guys. The relationships are real, but the preparation is no different. Like, and the only difference is right. I mean, I can show you. I mean, like this book right here is about 200 handwritten pages of breaking down about probably 200 teams with players returning, players lost, key analytics, style of play, what they might do differently. I mean, basically a scouting report on all these teams. I study that all summer. I go about 3 hours a day working on that. And then on this time of the year, between watching film, this is what I'm either on that treadmill, walking Jake, or watching film and breaking down, creating some ideas for what I'm going to talk about. Because I think that's the most important thing. But once I get into the studio, I put all that away because I don't want to be looking at something. I just want to, I want like what you guys are doing in terms of I want people to be feeling like they're in a bar and they're listening to me talk ball.
Yeah. You know what, Coach? Old school, paper and pen. I love it. I
mean, it's just kind of the way, just the way it is. So It's been great. I mean, Jay Will was like the little brother I never wanted. When I worked with Jay Will on Monday and Tuesdays, I mean, he's, we had a perfect player.
Come on.
We had a perfect player coach relationship. He looked at everything through the prism of two-time player of the year. I looked at it through a coach. We've had, like we'd look at each other. I've had enough of you, but it made for great TV. And it was fun. And he, I mean, I do look at him as like a little brother. I worry about him in this radio stuff he's doing now. He's got two, a son and a daughter, and great wife, Nikki. And, I just, I like my girls always say, you treat Jay like the rest of your former, players. I mean, you sit there and you'll sit at dinner and go, I'm worried about Jay Will. And it's just, he's got a great heart. He's been through a lot. And obviously he would have had an incredible NBA career. But it's a great lesson in decision making and also rebounding from a decision. So, I mean, Jay's, he's a blast. Now I work more with LaFonso Ellis, who if you're around LaFonso, you realize when you leave, you don't feel very good about yourself because he's the nicest human being in the world. And like, you can't be even close to not as nice a human being as he is. I mean, he's just he was a great player. He's an even better person, works his tail off, as genuine as anyone could be. He's a great dude. Reese Davis is just plain flat brilliant. I mean, it's the only way to describe it. He's brilliant. He does our show and then he does the football show with just little note cards, with nothing scripted. He makes it look so easy. It's not that easy. And he transitions from the football national championship game right into college game day in 1 week. It's crazy. And then, Jay Billis, and, who, like I always joke, he states his opinion like it's a fact. He is the defender of all things anti-NCAA. We agree on some things. We really disagree on some things. I think it's not as easy as he understands it to be. There's so much that goes on during the course of the day. There's so much that goes on that's bigger than coaching. There's a lot of coaching that goes on that's more between the ears. But if someone put a camera on our dinners the night before, it would be a great TV show. Because it would be a great TV show. And then when he gets really mad and you kind of make a good point, but he doesn't agree with it, he'll give you, you're silly. No, I'm not silly. That's my opinion, Jay. You can have another opinion, but that's my opinion. And then the producers, people don't understand, the people that make it, you got your guys, Daryl and your guys behind the scenes, but the people that make what we do, we have an easy job. We're talking ball. I mean, come on. If you love ball, what am I doing tonight? I'm going to watch Maryland play GW. I'm going to watch whatever games are on TV. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to get ready for the games tomorrow that I got to be in the studio for. But I mean, it's just talking ball. But like the producers, the directors, the people that deal with the programming, the researchers, all those people work so hard, and all they want you to do is have a good show. It's like the greatest team in the world, because literally, even in college, the football coach could be jealous of the basketball coach, or the AD could be jealous that he's got to pay the head coach that much money. Like at ESPN, everyone that surrounds you, all they want you to do is have a good show.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it's the most selfless group of people. So I've been, we moved here to Avon, Connecticut, and I didn't think it was going to be time to start my 10th year. I mean, I thought I'd be back in. I've had chances to get back in. It's just being so careful after knowing what you put. And, I don't know if you guys have had any similar, what do you want to put your family through again? I know the scars my girls had from me being let go. And even though they're all older and two of them are married, and I have a granddaughter and a grandson on the way, and a very successful Villanova grad and Syracuse grad and Jackie.
He's tied in, man.
You just don't know, if you want to put them through it again. On the other hand, like I almost took a job last year that would have brought me closer to the girls, but with the pandemic, it just wouldn't have been good for my wife's health because she has some medical, some respiratory issues. But, if it would have to be a really right situation. But, look, I'm 65, I'm in great shape, but 65-year-old guy, head coach is not exactly at a premium these days.
Yeah. So last question, Coach, and we'll let you go. I know we're up against it a little bit. Give us a couple of teams that you think will make some noise, that could really make some noise in the tournament. Give us a few nuggets.
A few nuggets. All right. I think don't devalue Illinois. Illinois has a chance. They return. Everyone talks about losing Io DeSumo, but they returned 4 really good players. I mean, with a unique player in Kofi Coburn, who's ridiculous. Andre Cabrillo will have a monster season. I think that, they're undervalued. I'll take one from a couple of different leagues. I think in the SEC, watch out for Auburn. They have a big kid, Jabari Smith, Walker Kessler, obviously the kid from North Carolina. They could have the best front court in the country in the SEC. Their guard play is going to be pretty good. They have 3 transfers at the guard position. Wendell Green, who is just a dynamic scorer, but they have 2 really tough guards. The Johnson kid who transferred from Georgia is just a physical guard. Reminds me a little bit of the Brown guy that they had that went to the Final Four. And again, Zep Jespers, a transfer from College of Charleston. I think they'll be really, really good. I mean, I think they'll be a lot better than people think. I think Kentucky's going to be terrific, by the way. I really do. I think Kentucky's going to be just fine. Sabir Willow he's a kind of a bucket creator. Those, Oscar Tshiebwe's a joke. He pursues every stinking rebound. It's crazy how he pursues the basketball. It's really unbelievable to me.
Coach Cal can coach. He can flat out coach.
He can really coach, and that's the thing that people don't understand. John's such a good dude, and he is all caught up in it. I mean, he lives it, he eats it, he breathes it. I mean, he really is. He's an amazing guy. I think Oregon has a chance to be really good. I mean, obviously they got your guy Quincy Guerriere, who I think, personally, in terms of his game, I think he made a mistake because he's going to end up playing 5 there. He wanted to play 3. I think he's going to end up playing 5. But Will Richardson, their point guard, they had Chris Duarte leave, and this guy Will Richardson is really good. They got Jacob Young, the kid who transferred from Rutgers, who can score it some. Obviously, Quincy is a very, very good player, and Davion Harmon, the kid transferred from Oklahoma. He has a great way of kind of mix and matching guys. UCLA is the best team in that league. There's no doubt about it. UCLA, to me, I think UCLA beats Villanova. Sorry, Chuck, but I just think that they have too much experience back. You don't replace Jeremiah Robinson Earl. And I saw Dixon played really well the other night, and I saw that Brandon Slater had a really nice night against Mount St. Mary's. Nana Joku, he's not ready yet. I mean, that playing for Jay, people don't understand their culture. Their culture is unbelievable. Their identity and their culture is unbelievable. I was at practice the other day, and what's the freshman guard? Longino?
Yeah, Longino, yeah.
And he gets in the lane and throws a one-hand pass off the dribble. Jay didn't have to say anything. Colin Gillespie's right there going, we don't do that. It was unbelievable. So, man, come to a stop. All right, put your eyes on the rim, pivot, make a play. I mean, it was good. Everything they do, and they hang on every second and every word that Jay gives them. I mean, it's a beautiful, and he coaches them really hard, but they love it and they appreciate it and they understand, who can play for him and who can buy into him and the culture and the identity. I think that's important. Texas, it's interesting. I spent 2 days. I spoke to the Texas team the other day, and Texas is a team that 7 transfers. And watching their tape today, it's amazing how unselfish their ball movement, their spacing. Chris Beard is really, really good. I still don't know if 7 is just a lot, especially when you have Courtney Ramey and Andrew Jones back, 2 guards that are going to fit in with Marcus Carr. I think that's going to be something that's going to be kind of interesting to watch. I think the biggest challenger in the Big East is going to be UConn. Their front court is monstrous and good. Adama Sanogo is really, really good. Their guard play's got to be good. RJ Cole's got to be good. Gaffney's got to be good. I think that if their guard plays at a high level, Martin is a good 3-man physical. Poly can make shots. I just think we're in for
It's going to be a fun season, I think.
Yeah, Purdue's good.
It's good to have fans back. It was a lot better watching the games than it was last year. It was difficult to watch, Coach. I mean, it
was a scrimmage.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Right.
Yeah,
the scrimmage. Yeah. You're scrimmaging in the dome. I mean, like that had to be an eerie feeling.
Yeah, that had to be crazy.
You couldn't even talk to your players because they were all spread out. Like Boeheim said, he lost some guy in the game. He was ready to put someone in. He said the guy was in the tunnel on a bike. He lost him. He lost a player and he was ready to put in the game in the middle of the game. And by the way, Syracuse is going to be the best shooting Syracuse team. I mean, I think Jimmy's going to help. I think Buddy and I just don't know if they have a shot creator, but Cole Swider and did you guys negotiate that transfer?
No. You know what? He's a great kid, Seth. I mean, I know him since the day he walked in the door at Nova, and he's really a great kid. Unfortunately, he was struggling with the way the system was there for him. But I think this is a great fit up at the Dome with Coach B.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think if the kids didn't, this is the oldest year in college basketball. I mean, with all these guys that got their fifth year back, if Jermaine went and graduated like he was able to do, he might have stayed, but he was going to play behind Jermaine. I mean, that's just the way it was.
Yep.
So I mean, he made it. It was like Jay said, I didn't want to lose him, but I understood him and I supported him, which is, I think, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Coach, I got to tell everybody we're recording this on Veterans Day, and I did take note that your father was a veteran, and I want to
appreciate
from our group. Thank you very much for your father's service. So
yeah. That picture's right behind my desk, and it's a pretty cool picture. And he was on the Franklin that actually got hit, but he survived. And for everyone, I the last thing I'll tell you is I get a chance through ESPN the last 5 years for usually this day we do the Armed Forces Classic game.
Yeah.
So I've been to Ramstein Air Force Base where I go early and spend 2 days with the troops before we even do it. I propelled from buildings. I've flown on missions with on a rescue mission. We fought the attack dogs. We flipped in Humvees, and I rode in a tank. I mean, and I've done it the last 5 years. And you spend 3 or 4 days with the troops, eating with them, interacting with them. It gives you an unbelievable appreciation of how young they are, the sacrifices they make, and the one thing they say is it's not just like the soldiers, but their families. Like I always say, what's the best thing I could say to someone who's in the service when I see him in the airport? Or he said, thank them. He said, but don't hesitate to ask to thank their families for the sacrifices they make that allow them to do what they do. That just stuck with me at Ramstein. That just it stuck with me when they told me that. But I'm real proud of what my dad did. No doubt about it.
Well, what a great way to wrap it up for today. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. We had a great time cutting it up with you today and talking about your career and about your time in the Big East with ESPN. It was a lot of fun. We hope you had fun joining us.
A blast, guys. Appreciate you having me. Stay safe. And Big East is going to be a lot of fun this year. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
You've been listening and watching the Big East Rewind with Chuck Everson and Sonny Spera. The Big East Rewind was produced and directed by Nick Chico Chorus and Daryl Gurney. If you need to contact us, you could reach us at bigeastrewind@gmail.com. We're on YouTube. Go in and hit like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Everybody, have a great night. We'll see you next time. Take care.